In this feature video, we're going to look at tracker zones. Let's take a look at the software here. I'm going to start by just loading in our Chauvet demo show file by going to Setup, Load Show, and going inside the Demos folder. This demo file is there on all MagicQ systems. So I'm going to take the Chauvet demo 2021 show, and that's just going to load in patch, queues, viz, setup, etc. just for ease of this tutorial. So if I go to my patch window, view viz, and go to the Attach Objects tab, and go to Insert, there's a new option here called Tracker Zone. When I select Tracker Zone, we'll enter another item in my window here, and I can now set some dimensions. So if I set on this 4 meters by 4 meters by 4 meters, we'll put in a cube, as you can see there. And now, of course, I can move it around like I would any other object using XYZ on my encoders, like so. And then I can also modify its shape. So on the model column here, for my tracker zone, you've got 3 options. The default variable cube, I could have a cylinder shape, or I could also have a sphere as well. The idea of a tracker zone is that you set this zone, and we can say when something goes into this zone, do a function. So we can use automations. So you can say when a tracker goes in the zone, turn some lights to a different color. When something moves into the zone, maybe a light, or maybe a bit of scenery, or a person or someone from our visualizer, when they move in the zone, again, do a function. And I'll show you how that works as well here. Worth noting, you've got your parameters along here, which allows you to set fades. So if I set my parameter 1 here to 1 meter, will give me a 1 meter fade into my zone here. Again, what that means is if I'm turning some lights on, I could say when the tracker or the object hits the edge of my point, it will start fading in that cue, so it's at full when it reaches the inner green square. So just allowing me to do transitions rather than just hard snaps when we do and activate an item. So I've got my tracker zone. Of course, I haven't got an external tracker system set up, so we're first going to look at using this with trackers. If we go to our setup window, view settings network is where you configure your tracker input. We support a whole range of different trackers, either via DMX input, OTP, PSN, and we have our own simulator. When I turn on the tracker simulator, what that does is under my stage here, you can see there's 2 trackers, a red and a green one. The green one is tracker number 1. And it's just moving left to right across my stage. So I've set my tracker simulator on. I now have something I can use just to do a demonstration. If I go now to my macro window and I insert an automation under the automation tab here, insert automation, there's 2 types I could use, either tracker or viz object. We're going to start by using trackers, so I'm going to set that to tracker. I've got options when my tracker goes, say, inside or outside of my zone here, or when it enters only, or when it exits only. I'm going to say when it's inside the zone. Set the tracker ID, I'm going to use tracker 1, and then set the object. In my case, it's going to be tracker zone 1. Of course, you can have multiple tracker zones in your visualizer. And then what's the function going to be? Well, I'm going to say activate a queue and release it. So activate release queue at level. I'm going to pick that. Now I need to choose what's going to happen. So let's take my spots here and locate them and put them on an out position here. And I'm just going to store that as a queue on playback number 9. And if I activate it, there's my queue there. Now what I want to happen when my tracker goes inside the zone, I'm going to say change the color of the lights. So I'm going to take my spots, turn them to red, and I'm going to go to my queue window, and you can have it activate anything you like. Just because I selected queue in my automation window, that's where I'm going to store it. Could be a playback, could be a queue stack, up to you. I'm going to record that as queue number 100, and I'm going to label that as spots red. I'm now going to clear my programmer, and of course the spots have gone back to white because I recorded that in my playback 9 here. Now what I'm going to do is go back to my automation window, and I'm going to set the queue ID, which if you remember the queue store window was Q100, so I'm going to set it to Q100 here. And now I've set when my tracker goes inside my zone, my spots turn red, and you can see that happening now. So my tracker is moving left and right across the stage. As it gets inside the box here, my spots turn red. When it goes outside of the box again, they go back to white. So that's using it with trackers. Your other option is to use viz objects. And I could say when a viz object goes inside my zone, again, do a function. You can have viz objects controlled via a fixture in MagicQ. So it's possible if you go to your patch window, view heads, choose head, you can patch a generic movement. And we've covered how to set up movements with objects in other of our tutorials. And you can have a movement attached to an object. So I could have a movement essentially allows me via DMX, via programming, to move things around, a person or something or a truss around via a playback in my visualizer space. So I'm not going to do that just for now, but I've set the viz object when it goes inside, and now I need to choose my object. So I can go and say, okay, we'll take my drummer here, and I could say, same again, tracker zone 1, when it goes inside tracker zone 1, activate Q100. Just to show you how that works, if I went to my patch window, view viz, viz objects, and I find my drummer. Somewhere along here should be a drummer. Here he is. There's my drummer, and if I move him forward into the zone, you can see my spots again turn red. Move them out, they go open white again. So that's how you can use tracker zones. For more information, you can look in our manual, and we'll also be expanding this further in the future as well.